It's Tuesday, November 8th. In the headlines, online portal registration for Jamaicans traveling overseas for short stays. Regionally, Guyana's president promotes the country's economic strengths. And in sports, Windies women to face England. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade is moving to strengthen the country's capacity for an effective response in emergency situations involving Jamaicans overseas. The ministry says it will be introducing an online portal for the registration of Jamaican nationals who are traveling overseas for short-term stays. Portfolio Minister Senator Cayman Johnson-Smith made the announcement during her contribution to the State of the Nation debate in the Senate recently.
When I had recognized that in order for Jamaicans overseas to register, they had to come into the nearest mission in order to write up a form. We tried to make an adjustment, and during the pandemic, a form was actually put up on the website. But we have recognized that this is absolutely not sufficient.
She notes that the portal is critical in the face of an increasing number of emergency situations, such as worsening natural disasters, pandemics, episodes of civil unrest, acts of terrorism, and human trafficking.
An online portal which provides one single database that allows persons' data to also be removed when they set the date of their return is a way in which we can ensure that if there is this type of event once more, we will be able to, and even smaller events, more controlled events, and are controlled and are contacted by family, we will be in a better state to be able to reach out to our people. So I'm very pleased to indicate that work on the portal is at an advanced stage with the developer and with the team at the ministry, and I expect to announce its launch shortly.
Senator Johnson-Smith says that work on the portal is at an advanced stage with the developer and the team at the ministry. The move follows reports that 34 Jamaicans are stuck in Colombia after the Jamaican registered fishing vessel they were on was seized in October by Colombian Coast Guards.
We have engaged with the owner of the vessels, and we are working with our embassy and our Colombian partners to process the crew for repatriation to Jamaica, as well as, of course, the working with the, well, let me not say too much in that regard. I'll leave it at that and say that we are hopeful of a positive result.
The Foreign Affairs Ministry said the matter was brought to their attention on October 19 by the Jamaica Defense Force, and that arrangements were being made to have the Jamaicans return home initially on November 5. The men were held for allegedly fishing illegally in the territory of the South American nation.
Illegal fishing is a major international issue. Vessels are seized. That's part of a judicial process. Crew is liable to be imprisoned. Again, a judicial process. They are not political processes in which governments can engage and on friendship. If a decision is taken to commence that process, it becomes very difficult. I want to call on our boat owners and operators and the captains of these vessels to fish responsibly in our waters.
Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation with responsibility for works, Everald Warmington, says the road infrastructure in St. Thomas Western needs extensive work, and he will be seeking to address some of the problems through the various road programs. Minister Warmington spoke about the matter following a tour of the constituency last week. We caught up with Minister Warmington as he started the tour with Western St. Thomas Member of Parliament James Robertson and the National Works Agency's Stephen Shaw.
Riverhead is where the water supply goes to Kingston. We're then going to have to look at Bethel above Cedar Valley, Nestcastle, Hagley's Gap, Penline. So we have a difficult day, and we will end up going through Mahogany Vale through to Popine.
The group toured sections of Albion and Richmond Gap. Minister Warmington spoke of the challenges to navigate sections of the roadway along Mango Road in Bethel.
We're looking at cutting down part of the embankment to widen what we have there, so that it be much easier for vehicle traffic to traverse there. I think most of what is existing in this consequence will have to be done on a special project like where them mid-PG upon all of those. But it will be difficult for the budget to address all that I've seen.
The group also toured sections of the South Coast Highway. Government had budgeted $2.8 billion to undertake road construction works under the South Coast Highway Improvement Project. This initial segment of the project entails the rehabilitation of the 14-kilometer stretch of roadway from Harborview in Kingston to Cedar Valley in St. Thomas by China Harbour Engineering Company Limited through a 3-year contract. The project is part of the government's strategic development plan for unlocking the growth prospects on the South Coast by connecting Negril, Westmoreland to Port Antonio, Portland via a modern highway system. Jamaicans now have easy access to a slew of services offered by the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service. The ministry launched its customer support portal recently. Director of Customer Service at the Ministry, Rory Stennett, says the portal will allow the Ministry's customers to get responses to their queries quickly. Mr. Stennett says once persons visit the Ministry's website, there is a chat box available. When a member of the Ministry's customer service team is available to chat, an icon will be displayed and the customer can click and interact with a team member directly. He explained to JIS, quote, "If you email us using custserve@mof.gov.jm, a ticket is automatically generated and it will also give you a link to access the portal. At that link, you can create a password or just log in without a password. It has what's called a one-time password," end quote. Mr. Stennett says the team usually has a quick response time to queries of 1 or 2 days. The Customer Service Director notes that the resolution time to queries varies based on the nature of the issues. Customers of the Ministry of Finance and Public Service will now find it much easier to receive attention with the recent launch of its portal. Minister of Health and Wellness Christopher Tufton says health should be universal. The right to health for all is a fundamental principle that must drive service delivery in HIV care and treatment. He says Jamaicans, including members of key populations and vulnerable groups, have the right to the highest standard of health. As efforts to enhance equity in service delivery continue, improvement in HIV prevention care and treatment outcomes have been observed. More patients are accessing and being retained in care, and since 2017, lost to follow-up numbers have lowered considerably. During a discussion at the ministry recently, it was highlighted that substantial efforts are being made to enable environments for all persons seeking to access care, notably through multi-sectoral partnerships and various collaborative efforts with both non-governmental and society organizations. This continues to be an important area of attention. In this week's episode of Living Healthy, we're learning about prostate cancer. Prostate cancer is the second leading cancer-related cause of death for men in Jamaica. Where in your body can the prostate be found, and how important is it? Can you successfully treat if a cancer forms within the prostate? Stick around for these answers and more.
It's referred to as a malignancy of the prostate gland. The prostate gland is a small gland that is located just below the urinary bladder and right behind the pubic bone, which is the lowest central bone in the pelvis. It's also located right in front of the rectum. The prostate's role really is what we call an accessory gland in reproduction. So when men have sex and ejaculate and semen comes out, about 20% of that semen is coming from the prostate gland. And the gland contains substances that are important for antibacterial properties, as well as to promote and preserve good sperm health.
Symptoms for prostate cancer are not always apparent, which is why early detection is key.
So let me be clear, the urinary symptoms I'm going to discuss are not unique to prostate cancer. They may be seen in other urological conditions. However, yes, in prostate cancer, they can present with either difficulty urinating, a poor urinary flow, urinary stream. The man will tell you that when he goes to the bathroom, he has to wait a long time for the urine to come. He may even see blood in his urine. He may have urinary retention where he wants to pass urine and nothing at all will come, or increased urinary frequency. So that's it involves the entire prostate gland. And the reason they'll get these symptoms is because the prostate itself as an organ surrounds the urinary passage called the urethra, at least a portion of it. So if it becomes invaded with cancer, it can compress that urinary passage and create a difficulty and outflow obstruction, if you will. But as it gets progressively worse and it starts to spread outside the prostate, then there are more devastating symptoms. So one is the patient could present with renal failure, kidney failure, because the tubes that drain urine from the kidneys to the bladder may be compressed externally. And this generally happens when there is involvement of enlarged lymph nodes in the pelvis. Next place it can spread to are the bones in the lower back. So the man may have back pain. Now, it is not true to say that every man who has back pain has prostate cancer that has spread, but definitely prostate cancer that has spread has a predilection of going to the bones in the lower back. Sometimes it's not just pain that they have. It may erode the bone. It may compress the spinal cord, lead to spinal cord compression and the sequelae of such, which may be paraplegia.
Time now for the business report with Danita Rodney. She's at the business desk with a story on more e-commerce options coming for small businesses, plus the market updates.
Scotiabank is improving its e-commerce solutions for micro to large businesses seeking to accept online payments. The services being marketed as Scotia Ecom Plus are designed to increase access to Jamaican businesses of all sizes. The new systems will allow for faster deployment and a more cost-effective end-to-end solution for the customer, as well as offer fraud protection for both buyers and businesses. For your market updates, in foreign exchange trading for Monday, November 7th, the US dollar sold for an average of $154.39. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $114.62. The pound sterling traded for $177.11, and the euro sold for $155.43. In JSE trading, the JSE index declined by 2,127 points. The junior market index advanced by 20 points. The combined market index declined by 1,798 points. And the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 1,302 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 108 stocks, of which 42 advanced, 50 declined, and 16 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Verbal Preference, Virgin Pins Jamaica Limited, and Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited. Trading firm were CAC 2000 9.5% cumulative redeemable preference shares, Community and Workers of Jamaica CCU Deferred Share, and Epley Caribbean Property Fund Limited SCC. The overall volume leaders were Wigton Wind Farm Limited Ordinary Shares with over 10 million units, Dollar Financial Services Limited with over 3 million units, and Trans Jamaican Highway Limited with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Clico Investment Fund was the volume leader with over 8,000 shares, followed by Calypso Macro Index Fund with a volume of 45 shares being traded. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Goddard Enterprises Limited was the sole security trading over 40,000 shares. In regional business, the European Union, Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States, and the United Nations Capital Development Fund have formally announced their partnership to accelerate digital financial inclusion across selected Eastern Caribbean islands. The program is a 4-year joint initiative which gives members access to a range of appropriately designed financial services essential for eradicating poverty, boosting resilience, and fostering inclusive economic growth. In international business, Wall Street ended sharply higher as investors focused on Tuesday's midterm elections that will determine control of Congress.
U.S. stocks ended higher Monday on the eve of the November 8th midterm elections, with Republicans favored to win a majority in the House of Representatives, ushering in a divided government, a scenario often favored by investors. The Dow ended more than 1.25% higher, while the S&P 500 and NASDAQ finished up just shy of 1%. Michael Jones, chairman and CEO of Caravel Concepts, explains why some on Wall Street love gridlock in Washington.
Generally speaking, the times historically where I've lived through this, where the market has done the best, is when there is the potential for stalemate. Because the great thing about stalemate is it's predictable. Nothing's going to happen. I think right now, if I were to try and balance between is it uncertainty about the Fed or uncertainty on the election, I think investors are much more worried about the Fed than the election, because the election is almost certain to lead to stalemate. The odds of the House flipping back to the Republicans are overwhelming based on the polls, the betting houses, all of the various standard things that you look, and all you have to have is one of the Congress's houses flip and you get stalemate.
Shares of Meta Platforms jumped following a report saying the company was planning to begin large-scale layoffs this week. The stock has slumped more than 70% so far this year. Recently beaten down shares of Microsoft and Google parent Alphabet also rallied, contributing heavily to the S&P 500's gain for the session. And soaring on the eve of the election were shares of Digital World Acquisition Corp., the blank check firm that agreed to take Donald Trump's Truth Social startup public after the former U.S. president hinted at announcing another run for the White House soon.
In market data for oil prices slipped as recession concerns and worsening COVID-19 outbreaks in top crude importer China heightened fears of lower fuel demand. Brent crude was down 93 cents at $96.99, while West Texas Intermediate crude was $1.16 lower at $90.63 a barrel. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Benita Rodney.
In regional news, in Antigua, several prominent issues will dominate the electoral landscape when Antiguans and Barbudans go to the polls in the next general elections. That is, according to pollster and head of the Caribbean Development Services cadres, Peter Wickham.
We found that water continued to be an issue for a number of people, and electricity in some instances. The cost of living is an issue for Antiguans. And I think things like employment came up from time to time. But there are some infrastructural challenges in some of the constituencies where people said, their main concern is the fact that the roads are horrible and they need assistance where that is concerned.
He says the water issue is a critical infrastructural issue and will not be a quick fix for either party. He also believes, though, the major issues will not change traditional party supporters' minds on which party they choose. My feeling is that people are not going to vote issues so much as they may not vote in terms of how they feel about issues. So if I'm an ABRP supporter and I'm unhappy, I may say, you know what, I'm going to just not vote for the Antigua Barbuda Labour Party. I may just stay at home. And that may actually make a difference in some instances. But I don't believe that persons are going to vote for an ABRP supporter will vote for the UPP because they believe the UPP has a better plan to deliver those facilities. But leadership also matters, Wickham says, and many, he says, are pleased with the performance of the current Prime Minister. Respondents to the latest electoral survey were asked about the leadership of Gaston Brown. We also asked people about support for government, support for the Prime Minister. If an election were called, who do you think is the best person to lead the country? And again, there is often a similarity between party support and national support. We did find in this instance, though, that the Prime Minister's support was slightly higher than the party support in many instances, suggesting that there are some people who are inclined towards the UPP, but will prefer the leadership of Prime Minister Brown in some instances.
In the Cayman Islands, Cayman Airways on Saturday made its inaugural flight to Los Angeles, California.
We have so much to be proud of, as this is the only non-stop flight from the western United States to the Caribbean. Again, the only one, so there's so much to be proud of.
The national flag carrier Cayman Airways makes its inaugural flight to Los Angeles, California. On Saturday, tourism officials took the non-stop first flight with other invited guests, including a group of performers. Also on the flight were Miss Cayman Universe, second runner-up Haley Grizel, and Miss Cayman World Leanna Tibbetts. Performers, including dancers, steel pan players, and swanky international carnival players, showcased the Cayman Islands at various events held in Los Angeles.
This not only enhances our air connectivity overall, but opens up the travelers originating from Asia and Australia, giving us an advantage to move into further unserved markets. Now, if you are anything like me as a new minister, unserved markets mean places we don't get to yet. A long-haul route has for a long time been a big dream. With these new 737 aircrafts, and I want to take this opportunity to give credit to the former minister, the Honorable Moses the Colonel, for his hard work to support Cayman Airways to get this new fleet and the board members previously.
Cayman Airways will fly to Los Angeles weekly on Saturday and bring visitors to the Cayman Islands on Sundays.
In Guyana, President Dr. Ifran Ali on Friday talked up Guyana's rapid economic growth as he joined several world leaders in delivering opening remarks at China's 5th International Import Expo. The newsroom's Fariza Hanif reports from Shanghai.
China's largest import exposition, which runs until November 10th, provides a platform for companies around the world to display their products, promote their brands, and find more business partners in the world's second largest economy. Guyana will have a virtual booth at the event, which is being held in Shanghai, China's main economic hub. This exposition is seen as vital to the global economy, given the fact that China is the largest exporter and the second largest importer in the world. A total of 145 nations, regions, and international organizations and enterprises from 127 nations will participate in the event, a significant increase from last year. As many as 284 companies on the Fortune 500 list or industry leaders will be present at the business exhibition, and hundreds of new products, technologies, and services will be exhibited at the 6 major exhibition areas. Some of these include consumer and agricultural products, cutting-edge medical devices, state-of-the-art technologies and facilities, and the automotive and service industries. Guyana's President, Dr. Irfan Ali, joined at least 4 other world leaders in delivering an address at the opening ceremony on Friday. In his virtual remarks, President Ali used the opportunity to promote the country as an attractive investment destination, as he boasted about Guyana's rapid economic growth, resource wealth, multi-sector opportunities, its accessibility to regional and global markets, and favorable fiscal incentive regime for investors. President Ali told the forum of leaders that companies investing in Guyana can be assured of support and protection.
Guyana's development trajectory is in takeoff mode. Our country is now ranked by the International Monetary Fund as one of the 5 fastest growing economies in the world. Our economy is expected to grow by 47% this year.
The president noted that the success of the previous import expositions coincides with China's impressive economic strides, pointing out that China has emerged as a global economic giant.
Guyana welcomes the opportunity that the China International Import Expo provides for it to showcase trade and investment potential on a global stage. Undoubtedly, this event will be instrumental in enhancing trade and investment with other countries, including the People's Republic of China.
in St. Lucia. St. Lucians are being encouraged to participate in an island-wide trip to discover challenges with sustainable development in hopes of bridging the gap between technocrats and nationals while offering up solutions and being educated on the value of resources available to us all.
Engagement on environmental issues will be held with the St. Lucian public by officials of the Department of Sustainable Development in an effort to demystify a subject of significant impact to us all.
Although the two projects focus on the east coast of St. Lucia, we thought it was an opportune time to bring awareness to not only the projects but the environmental issues which St. Lucians on a whole are being faced with. In as much as we have challenges and the project is trying to resolve those, bring relief to the communities for sustainable livelihood opportunities, for addressing some of the deforestation issues, some of the land management issues that are happening on the east coast of St. Lucia. We know these issues and challenges are not limited to the east coast of St. Lucia.
Such issues, Justin says, are not isolated to any one location with an existing need for solutions. The event, which will see community performances held in at least 6 scheduled locations, is hoped to increase national awareness. The journey commences in the northern community of Babonneau.
We're starting off in Babonneau, going through the west coast and coming up through the east coast. There will be about 6 communities where we will stop and put on some community performances. We will be speaking to the issues in each of those communities. We have different resource persons, such as we have fisheries, we have the project themselves, we even have some community organizations that will be assisting as well.
In international news, abortion has always been a hot-button issue in most U.S. elections, and these midterms are no different. But this year, emotions about abortions are particularly raw after the Supreme Court struck down constitutional protections for the procedure in June. Now it's up to individual states to decide whether to allow abortions, and voters in Michigan are getting a chance to have their say. More from Al Jazeera.
We won't go back. We won't back now. We won't go back.
Abortions are at the moment legal in Michigan, but the women in this room, including the president of the country's largest abortion provider, fear that soon could change.
How far they are trying to take us back.
A 1931 Michigan law had banned nearly all abortions with no exceptions for rape or incest. Now that law could return.
This outrageous, dangerous, and cruel law basically means that healthcare in Michigan becomes criminalized, that women can be prosecuted for having an abortion, for having a miscarriage, if they have a stillbirth.
That's where Michigan's Proposal 3 comes in. It puts the question of whether abortions should be protected in Michigan directly to the voters. Signs are everywhere. Vote yes to support abortion access, no to oppose it. Both sides have been campaigning hard.
We're out canvassing in support of Proposal 3.
This father and daughter duo have been knocking on doors to convince voters that abortions should be protected.
After learning what the campaign was, she said she'd support it.
There is a reason why Michigan is at the center of the abortion debate raging across the country. Voters here are about evenly divided politically, a close reflection of the entire nation. And that gives lawmakers of both parties, from Lansing to Washington, a chance to learn what the average American voter thinks about abortion, and then to adjust their political strategies accordingly.
In sports, West Indies women will host England women in an 8-match white ball series in December as they beef up preparations for next year's T20 World Cup in South Africa. The tour will run from December 4 to 22 and will see a 3-match one-day international series, along with the first T20 international being played at Sir Vivian Richards stadiums, and the remaining 4 T20Is are being played at Kensington Oval in Barbados. The Caribbean side have been drawn in Group 2 for the February 10 to 26 World Cup alongside England, India, Pakistan and Ireland. That's it for the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. And remember, we are the People's Station.